All right, so today we are really diving deep. Get ready to go deep on multi-level modeling.
Ooh, multi-level modeling. Exciting.
It is. We are going way beyond your Stats 101 class with this one.
Definitely.
We're going to unlock the secrets of nested data. You
Yeah.
know how sometimes it's like those Russian nesting dolls. You open one and bam, there's another one inside.
And another and another.
Exactly.
It's like that. It's more common than you might think.
Yeah, and that's where like our traditional statistics kind of fall apart a little bit. It's like trying to fit a square block in that round little doll. It doesn't quite work.
It's not a perfect fit.
But multi-level modeling is like we finally have the right tool for the job, you know?
Yeah, it's a game changer because it lets us untangle these relationships.
Yes.
Because we do have these different layers and they are all intertwined.
Right.
The chapter that you shared calls it dependence. This idea that like individuals within a group are more similar to each other than to those outside the group.
So like all the fish in a lake are going to be more similar to each other than they are to fish in a totally different lake, right?
They're shaped by that environment.
Exactly. They're shaped by their environment.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what that dependence is, that connection.
So are you telling me that most research just ignores this whole fishbowl effect thing?
Unfortunately, a lot of research does,
Wow.
which can have big consequences.
Really?
Yeah, think about it like this. Imagine a company trying to figure out what makes their employees feel empowered at work.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense.
They might look at individual factors, maybe someone's skills, experience, if they're a morning person or not.
Right. Like those things all matter.
They do, but it's not the whole story.
Okay.
What if the team's leadership, the culture of that team, plays a bigger role than we think?
Oh, okay.
That's a higher level influence that traditional statistics might completely miss.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So it's like my individual motivation matters, sure, but if my whole team is dragging their feet,
Yeah.
that's going to affect me, right? Exactly. And ignoring that team level influence could lead to some seriously flawed conclusions. Like you might think, let's give everyone a raise and that will fix it, when really it's the team dynamics that need attention.
Okay, that's a light bulb moment for me.
Yeah.
So how does multi-level modeling tackle this? Does it like magically measure the team vibe?
I mean, it's not magic, but it is kind of close.
Okay.
Because multi-level modeling lets us see how much that team vibe, that shared context, actually matters.
Okay.
It's like upgrading from a regular camera to one with a super zoom lens,
I like that.
right? We
Yeah.
can really zoom in.
So we're not just looking at individual employees anymore. We're seeing the whole ecosystem that they're swimming in.
Exactly. We can isolate the impact of being in that team separate from all the individual differences.
Okay.
And that is where things get really interesting.
Okay, so multi-level modeling, it's like we can see the forest and the trees at the same time.
Yeah,
But what kind of questions can we actually answer with this super zoom lens?
you're right. It's not just about seeing the layers. It's about understanding how they connect.
Right.
And the chapter that you sent over actually breaks it down into 3 key questions.
Okay.
And I'm not going to lie, these questions, they're like golden keys to unlocking insights in so many fields.
Okay, lay it on me. What's golden key number 1?
First up, we've got lower level direct effects.
Lower level direct effects.
Yeah, so remember how we talked about those individual factors that might affect employee empowerment?
Uh-huh.
This is where we isolate those connections.
Okay.
So it's really zooming back in
Got it.
on that individual level.
Okay, so like if I love learning new things and my job lets me do that, is that going to make me feel more empowered? Regardless of the team, just me and my work.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
It's about those direct links at the individual level.
Okay.
But then we level up, literally, to cross-level direct effects.
Okay, cross level.
Yeah, this is where the team vibe comes in. So now we are talking about how the team's leadership, for example, might directly impact my empowerment, even if my individual relationship with my boss is just okay.
Got it. So even if you're not best buddies with your boss, being on a team where leadership is generally supportive could still boost your sense of
Empowerment.
exactly.
Okay.
Because that positive vibe, it trickles down.
Right.
So we've got the individual piece,
Yeah.
we've got the team piece.
Is there more?
Oh, there's more. Get ready for golden key number 3,
Okay.
because this is where things get really nuanced.
Okay.
We're talking about cross-level interaction effects.
Cross-level interaction, that sounds complicated.
It's really not as complicated as it sounds, I promise.
Okay.
So imagine this. Imagine that the relationship between loving to learn new things, which is your individual trait,
Yeah.
and feeling empowered changes depending on the team you're in.
Wait, really?
So I could be on one team where, like, my love of learning is encouraged and I'm thriving, but then on another team with the same love of learning, it doesn't really do anything for me.
Exactly. Maybe that second team is super focused on routine tasks, so your individual trait isn't nurtured in the same way.
That makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a cross-level interaction. The team climate is actually changing how much your individual characteristic matters.
Wow. Okay. Mind officially blown. That is so cool. So we're not just looking at these separate layers anymore. It's like we're looking at how they interact to amplify or dampen things.
And here's the best part.
Okay.
These 3 questions, they're not just limited to employee empowerment.
Oh, okay.
Think about students in classrooms, plants in different climates, countries within, like, global system.
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
It's everywhere, you know.
It's like this hidden web of connections, and we finally have the tools to, like, map it.
Yes.
But how do we actually measure this stuff? Like, where do we even start looking in the data?
That's where things get a little technical. But trust me, it's worth it.
Okay.
It all comes down to understanding variance.
Okay. Variance. Okay, yeah. Flashback to Stats 101. Variance, that's like how spread out the data is. Right.
Good recall.
But how does that work when we're talking about all these different layers, these nested layers?
Well, it's about spotting the patterns in the spread. So imagine you're looking at data from different schools
Okay.
to try to understand student engagement.
Okay, makes sense.
Some schools, they might have classrooms where the students are all pretty similar. Like they're either all highly engaged or they're all checked out.
Okay, so that's low variance within the classroom.
Exactly. Low variance within the classroom. But other schools, they might have huge differences between their classrooms.
Okay.
Some are super engaged, others not so much.
So that's higher variance between the classroom.
Exactly. And that's our first clue that something interesting is happening at the classroom level. Maybe it's the teacher, maybe it's the subject, who knows? But that's what we dig into.
So it's like some schools are really consistent in their classroom engagement, whether it's good or bad, and others are all over the map.
Right.
And that tells us something.
It does. That all over the map situation suggests that the classroom itself is playing a role.
Okay, interesting.
The chapter that you shared uses some Greek letters to represent these different sources of variance.
Of course, it's always Greek letters.
It's always Greek letters.
It wouldn't be a statistics conversation without them.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Which I know can look a little intimidating on paper,
Yeah.
but they're really just labels for these patterns.
Okay, so like secret code names for statistical spies.
Exactly.
I like it. So spill the beans. What are these code names and what are they actually telling us?
Okay, so first up, we have STU.
Okay.
That represents the variation within each group, like the buzz within each classroom in our example.
Got it.
So high STU, lots of differences within those classrooms.
Okay, so that's like our classroom buzz measurement.
Exactly.
Okay.
And we have 0 to
Well, now. Okay, got it.
That captures how much the average engagement differs across those classrooms.
Okay.
So high to nows, big differences between the classrooms, even if within each classroom, kids are kind of on the same page.
Okay, makes sense. So that's like the between classroom measurement.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, but you mentioned there was a third one, right? Like the one that really unlocks all the multi-level secrets.
Yes, 111. This one's special.
Okay.
It tells us how much the relationship between something at the individual level and our outcome.
Okay.
So let's say a student's love of reading and their engagement, how much that relationship varies across classrooms.
Hold on, back up. So you're saying that in some classrooms, a love of reading might like lead to huge engagement, but in other classrooms, it doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Maybe one classroom has a fantastic library program, and another one is all about group projects.
Okay.
Same kid, same love of reading, totally different impact.
Wow.
That's the power of 11.
Yeah.
It reveals if the recipe for engagement is different in different classrooms.
That is so cool. Okay, so we're not just comparing averages anymore. We are seeing how the whole relationship between things can change depending on the group.
And to measure how much those groups actually matter, we use something called the intra-class correlation, or ICC.
Okay.
It tells us what proportion of the overall variation is due to the group differences.
So a high ICC means the group, the classroom, the team, whatever, it really packs a punch.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. There's not just one ICC.
Of course not.
There's one that looks at average differences, like how much classrooms differ in overall engagement.
Okay.
And then there's another that focuses on slope differences, like how much the impact of loving reading varies across classrooms.
Oh, wow. So it's like two sides of the same coin.
Exactly.
But both telling us something really crucial about those hidden group effects.
Exactly.
This is way cooler than I thought it was going to be.
Right.
Yeah, but also maybe a tad overwhelming.
Yeah, it's a lot.
If we're trying to, like, use multi-level modeling in our own work, where do we even start?
Well, it's like learning a new language.
Okay.
It takes time and practice.
True.
But the good news is that there's tons of resources out there.
Okay, good.
And once you get the hang of it, it's really rewarding.
That's awesome. This has been, honestly, so eye-opening. We went from multi-what modeling to seeing how this can help us unlock all these hidden layers of influence, which are everywhere.
Everywhere.
In companies, in schools, in our own lives. And we finally have the tools to understand it a little bit better.
And it's only going to become more important as we get more and more data
Exactly.
from all these different sources.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into multi-level modeling.
This was fun. Thank you.
Until next time, keep those brains buzzing, and remember, there's always more